Bernard didn't hear the scream at first. The world inside the towering glass building was always loud, keyboards clattering, executives rushing, elevator bells chiming, but this scream split the air like glass shattering underwater. He turned, mop still dripping soap on the marble floor, and saw her collapse. The woman every employee whispered about but never approached. The billionaire owner of the entire corporation. One second she was standing tall, the next she crumpled like her legs were pulled from beneath her. Bernard dropped everything and ran, his heartbeat crashing in his ears. He had been a medic once, before tragedy rerouted his life. And instinct took over. He knelt beside her, tilted her head, checked her pulse, and when breath didn't come, he sealed his mouth over hers, giving her life, giving her air, giving her one more chance. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the goodness still left in this world, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. It keeps stories like this alive. Her lashes fluttered barely, her chest rising in a sharp gasp as if she had been pulled from drowning. People finally rushed in, but all Bernard heard was the rasp of her breathing. And then security tore him away like he was the danger. They never asked what he did. They never asked why he did it. They only saw a janitor touching a billionaire. And by the end of the day, he was fired. In just one afternoon, Bernard's life slipped off its axis like a stone falling from an open hand. One moment, he was a struggling single father clinging to every shard of hope for his daughter's future, and the next, he was a man thrown onto the street for a reason so vague it felt terrifying. Someone was pulling strings in the shadows. And the way his daughter Molly looked at him with wide, frightened eyes when he came home early, while their neighbor Janet gripped the counter edge as if she sensed disaster, it was all just the beginning. Because this fall wasn't accidental, this was the spark that would ignite a truth ready to explode. Bernard spent the night trying not to break. Molly was only 7, and she depended on him for everything. Her illness meant medical bills were mountains he never stopped climbing. The job, humble, exhausting, and invisible, was still his lifeline. Losing it meant losing the oxygen that kept their world afloat. Yet he tucked Molly into bed with a smile he didn't feel, kissing her forehead and whispering promises he wasn't sure he could keep. In his own room, he sat in darkness, staring at the termination letter, wondering how saving someone's life could cost him his own. But far away, in a penthouse above the sleeping city, the woman he saved was sitting up in bed with trembling hands. She had seen his face through the blur of unconsciousness. She remembered the fear in his eyes when he thought she wouldn't wake. And she remembered how security dragged him away. Her name was Everly Grant, a woman so powerful the ground seemed to shift beneath her heels. Yet tonight, fear swallowed her whole. Because her collapse wasn't random. It was the second time in a month. And both times, just moments before, she had received the same anonymous text, "You won't see tomorrow." The next morning, Bernard went searching for any kind of work. Every "no" he heard felt heavier than the last. By afternoon, his legs carried him, almost unconsciously, back to the building where everything fell apart. He stood across the street, staring up at the tower as if it were a mountain that once offered shelter but now cast a shadow over every inch of his life. Then a black car pulled up in front of him. The window slid down. And the billionaire he had saved looked at him with eyes full of gratitude and guilt. Everly asked him to get in. He hesitated, but something in her expression, something fragile beneath her composed exterior, pulled him forward. When the door closed behind him, she told him everything. The threats. The collapses. The pressure of an empire built with hands that were no longer steady. And how the board had used his attempt to save her as a convenient excuse to push him out, covering up the truth. Bernard listened silently, unsure why she was telling him any of this. Then she asked him something that left him breathless. She requested his help, not as a janitor, not as a stranger, but as the only person who didn't want something from her. She wanted him close, wanted him protected, wanted the one person who risked everything for her with no reward. It felt impossible. He was nobody. She was everything. And yet, for the first time in years, someone looked at him like he mattered. Everly brought him into her world quietly, making him part of her security, someone to watch her, someone she trusted, someone who reminded her what humanity looked like. And Bernard found himself seeing the woman behind the marble walls. A woman exhausted by loneliness, bruised by expectations, and terrified of being vulnerable. Days turned into weeks, and the tension around Everly grew like a tightening wire. Someone wanted her gone. Someone within her inner circle. Bernard's instincts sharpened, every footstep echoing danger. But even amid fear, something gentle began to bloom between them, something neither dared name, but both felt in the way they looked just a second too long, or the way their hands brushed and lingered. One night, after another frightening incident, Everly broke. She confessed how his presence made her feel safe in a world where trust was currency she could no longer afford. Bernard felt his heart tremble, because he hadn't been anyone's anchor in years, not since Molly's mother died. He didn't know he still had strength left to give. But he did. For Everly, he did. And when the person behind the threats was finally exposed, a board member desperate for control, it was Bernard's steady courage that helped her stand firm. It was his unwavering loyalty that kept her alive. And it was his quiet kindness that finally healed the parts of her no one ever saw. They weren't equals on paper. They weren't meant to cross paths. Yet life had thrown them together. First through a breath that saved her life. Then through a truth that saved them both. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and share the video. Your support helps our channel keep creating meaningful stories. Speech balloon special request, tell us in the comments what part of Bernard's journey moved you the most. And as the city lights shimmered outside Everly's window, Bernard realized that sometimes fate doesn't knock, it collapses into your arms, gasping for air, waiting for you to save it, so it can save you back.